Hi, I'm Wendi Friesen. If you are a bad speller or a slow reader, today is your lucky day, and here's why. I want to teach you a really quick technique that's going to help you change from being an auditory speller or reader to a visual speller or reader. What do I mean by that? Well, if you are an auditory speller, you probably spell really badly. If you are an auditory reader, you probably read very slowly. The way to change this is to get your brain shifted over from that auditory function to the visual function, and here's how it's going to happen. If you're a person who, like when you go to spell a word, the first thing that you think about is like, how does it sound? And you're thinking this sound and putting the letters together to match the sounds. Well, you probably already know that in most cases that's going to make you spell the word incorrectly. If you are a visual speller, when someone asks you, how do you spell this? You say, oh, wait a minute, let me write it down. You write it down to find out if it looks right. And the reason that it has to look right is it has to match a picture that those combination of letters have in your brain, because your brain is taken like a snapshot. I'm sure you've heard of people who have a photographic memory. Well, basically, I'm going to teach you to do the same thing. Get your brain to take a snapshot, lock it in, and then you're going to have the correct spelling of the words. How is this going to affect your reading? Well, when you read, you are reading pictures of words. In other words, if you see the word that, it has a certain shape to it and a certain combination. It is like your brain has taken a picture of that. The only way that you can read quickly is if your brain knows that these little pictures represent a specific word or have a certain meaning. If you're sounding out, or if your child, when they read, if they're sounding out the words, of course that's going to make them read very slowly. When you read, if you have an auditory track in your brain while you're reading, and you can kind of hear yourself reading along, you're probably an auditory reader and you could read a lot faster. So let's fix it right now. What I'd like you to do is think about a certain word. Let's say the word marble, okay? When you think about the word marble and you think about how you spell it, you're going to find out if you're an auditory speller or if you're a visual speller. So right now, close your eyes, just take a breath and think about spelling the word marble. Good. Now open your eyes, and I want you to notice, did you sound it out in order to spell it? Did you find the words M-A-R-B-L-E by the sounds of those letters? Or did you see the word in front of you in your mind, and you looked at the letters and you read them M-A-R-B-L-E? So right now, even when I say the word twister, when you notice that word, is your brain sounding out twister, or are you seeing the word and you're looking at the letters and telling me what they are? All right, so if you were an auditory speller, you're going to have difficulty spelling words correctly. Let's change it to visual. The way to change it to visual is to imagine in your brain that you have a sort of a machine that's going to take a snapshot of words, a machine that is going to take this entire visual image of a complete whole word, put it into that machine and store it so that later when you want to spell that word, it's going to come out as that entire word. So let's take a word like umbrella. All right, now if you need to, you can write that word down, U-M-B-R-E-L-L-A, and you're going to then look at the word spelled correctly, and you're going to look at it as a picture. If you're already a visual speller, you've already got that picture in your mind. Now close your eyes. Imagine that somewhere in your brain you have a machine that's going to store all of the words and all of the combinations of letters, and it's going to store the correct spelling of all of those words. So right now, when you hear the word umbrella, or if you see that word printed out on that piece of paper, it's going to go right into the machine, and the machine is going to store it. Does your machine have buttons or levers? Does it have colors? Does it have sounds? Does it have bells and whistles? What does that machine do when you put a word into that machine? So you put the word umbrella in there, and now I want you to just take another deep breath, relax. Good. Now I want you to imagine that I'm asking you to spell the word umbrella. When I ask you to spell the word umbrella, it pops out of the machine. Somewhere that machine spits it out, and it spits out all the words spelled correctly, U-M-B-R-E-L-L-A. Look at that word right there. What you've done is you've taught your brain to store something visually, to spit out the answer visually. This is the beginning of having a photographic memory. Now open your eyes. Good. All right, now you've learned the first part of the technique of becoming a visual speller. You're going to have to spend about a half an hour training your brain to accept words as visual images. After that, it's going to happen automatically. So maybe you'll open a newspaper or a book. You're going to start with simple words that you do know how to spell correctly, and don't let yourself get caught up in trying to sound them out. You notice a word, and you take that word, apple, you see it on the page, you close your eyes, you imagine putting it in the machine, and just sit and take a breath for a minute and let the machine spit the word out as a picture of A-P-P-L-E, okay? So no sounding it out right now, just the entire word. Cool, huh? Now, when you do this and you teach your brain, you could do it in little 5-minute segments now and then, or you can do it all at once for half an hour. Your brain's going to shift over. And it isn't like you have to put in every single word. It's just that you're going to teach it how to put those words in. So now as you're reading, your brain's going to absorb those words and start putting them into the machine and storing them, and you're going to become a better speller. Now, how are you going to know when a word is spelled incorrectly? This is the really cool part. I was working with a young girl who's about 7 or 8 years old, because she just was such a horrible speller. And one of the words we put into the machine was Africa. And I said, okay, put the word Africa in, and I would show her on a piece of paper the correct spelling. She would close her eyes, put it into the machine, and then a little bit later I said, okay, now I want you to let the machine show you the words. And it spit out one of the words, which was Africa, and I said, okay, tell me what you see. I didn't say, how do you spell it? And I didn't say, tell me, how that word is spelled. I just said, what do you see? And she says, A-F-R-I-C-K-A. Now, her brain was having a little bit of an auditory need to spell it in the way that she thought it might be spelled if she was doing it auditorily. And I said, okay, now look at all the letters. What do you notice? And she said, well, the K is different. All the letters are like spotted giraffes, except for the K is just solid black. I said, so what does that tell you? And she says, well, maybe the K doesn't belong there. And I said, well, take that out, what happens? And now the word kind of glowed, and it was all the same, and she knew it was correct. Her subconscious mind knew that her intentional attempt at spelling the word with a K was wrong. So it took that K and it marked it differently so that it didn't belong in the word. Make sense? Now, if you want to do this with your kids, it will be such a tremendous help to get them to the point where they have visual spelling abilities that will then translate to visual reading. So do the same thing with your kids. Do very simple, small words if they're young, and get them to store these words in their machine and have them spit them out. In fact, on the CDs that you may want to get, you're going to have this entire process all mapped out. There's a session that's for kids and a session that's for adults. So you can either work on it with your kids, or you can just get the CDs and let me just take care of it for you. Now, how do you translate that into reading? When you are reading, you want to be reading pictures of words, so you don't sound out a word, like the word thought. How on earth could you sound that out? It would be thought. But instead, you want your mind to just have that picture of it. Once you've created the spelling machine, you're going to become a visual reader, and you're going to start noticing the entire words. Now, the session on the CDs that makes you into a visual reader, it asks your brain not only to see the words as pictures, but the entire sentences. And this is cool. When I was young, I had a speed reading course in school, and our brain was taught to take pictures of the entire line of text, not just the individual words. And so we were taking these snapshots of the lines, and we weren't reading the individual words on the line, but rather the entire line, and it has served me all of my life. So I want to turn you into a great speller and a really fast reader, and I want you to retain what you're reading. You're going to love these CDs. If you don't get them, just go ahead and play around with this technique. Watch this video again. Send it to your friends. Who knows? Maybe we'll just get everybody to be amazingly great spellers, and you can have a photographic memory. I'm Wendi Friesen. Thanks for being here. It's been great hanging out with you and your brain.